All right, I think we're live.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rachel. Welcome everyone to our CPC meeting. Today is Tuesday, November the 3rd, and we're gathered around a group of folks representing lots of different projects within the OpenJS Foundation community. We start with announcements. Does anybody have any announcements, project announcements, meeting announcements, party announcements, personal announcements they'd like to share today?
We do have a OpenJS Foundation Ask Me Anything with the Dojo project on November 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific. So if you are interested, please tune into our YouTube Live. We would love to have you there and ask some questions of the project.
And if I recall correctly, you can also submit questions in advance to you and to Dylan and everybody. So
You sure can. Yep.
Great. So get those in and join for that. That sounds like a fun time. Found my Dojo Toolkit t-shirt the other day. That was cool. One announcement we just discussed, we're going to go ahead and cancel today's regularly scheduled standards meeting. And so we're going to open that. We're going to comment on the issue there. We just have one item. We're looking for a larger block of time, and today's not likely to have a lot of attendance. So we're going to go ahead and preemptively cancel that. Other announcements or news? Okie dokie. Hearing none, I'll just also add we're going to close 15 minutes early today for a private session to share some updates about an event next year. So we will close a little early, but we will now dive right on into today's agenda. We start with number 658, which is develop a growth plan template. This is one that Toby had opened. I think a number of folks were contributing to this conversation. Does anybody have an update? I've been away, unfortunately, last week, moving and stuff. Anybody have a update? I'm just gonna, suddenly I just was not logged into GitHub, so I couldn't comment or see any of the recent comments. Okay, I don't see anything new on this, and this is Toby, so we will move on since that doesn't have any updates, so no update. Oh, and let me remind everyone here to add yourself to the list of attendees in that note stock I shared, if you don't mind. All right, number 650, which is a proposal to remove the growth stage. We've had several comments on this from okay, see, I was mentioned in this comment. In the CPC meeting today, we thought it would be good to ask growth projects what they thought about having growth stage removed, what would be the best way of going about that. So it sounds like I was pinged on this to reach out to the growth stage maintainers to assess their feelings. Could somebody who was here last week maybe just give me a quick recap of that convo?
Very briefly, it's just as you said. Before we go and make decisions about the growth stage, we should at the very least ping the groups that are in growth at the moment about their thoughts on the matter.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like there's maybe an action item to me to help Toby and others on that thread query the growth stage maintainers. So I'm writing that in the notes. Okie doke. Easy peasy. Moving to issue number 649, should we have a lightweight mechanism to spin off ad hoc CPC working groups? And as I click that open, can I ask somebody to promote Mary and Furkan? I've lost my promote privileges somehow. Thank you very much. Cool. All right. This was also opened by Toby. And recapping from Joe, consensus is to use CPC meeting time beyond agenda to do some working session work. Another idea is to create working session meeting template that would provide info on the following. And then the action item was Toby to start a PR around the issue template. He does have a linked pull request. That's number 667. Let's see if it's had enough approvals. It's been open for 14 days and had a few LGTMs. So theoretically, we could merge this in and say done. It doesn't have a lot of approvals on the PR, but that may also be just because it was nice and normal. And Miles is here too. We want to promote Miles. Any issues maybe just merging this because it's been open for 14 days and has our +1s?
I'd say go for it. Not really a controversial thing. More of
I don't think so either. Yeah. All right. I will do that. And then I think that will close. That would close the related issue. So go ahead and merge number 667. And then that may, let me update number 649. And Joe is here.
Hi, friends.
Cool. So Joe, we are on, I don't know if you wanted to jump back in and take over, but we're on 649. We just closed, or just merged in the PR with the work in progress ad hoc template. And now we're going to, and I'm just going to comment that this, since that's closed, since that was merged and closed, should number 649 be closed? Or is there anything else we think needs to happen to close 649? This is the one about ad hoc working groups.
Because it's already closed. You just closed it.
Oh, I guess it is closed. All right, cool. That happened automatically. GitHub says it's closed. All right, so it's closed. Moving to 647. Adds growth plan template. Like Chris Hiller's comment, yes, good, perfect. I think because there's been more activity in the week or two since I've been out, and then I know we wanted to reach back out to the growth stage maintainers. I'm not sure if there's any action we want to take further on these these growth plan related issues until we have more weigh in from those groups, or
647. I think that should have been already. I think we have a decision on moving it to the project status repo. But is there a reason anyone knows why it's still around?
I think that's the issue, is that nobody's moved it yet. So it's just waiting for somebody to
Okay.
take that.
So I think I could transfer this to, theoretically, I should be able to transfer this to.
I don't think you can transfer a PR that easy.
Oh. Okay. So the AI is to transfer that. I'll try that later.
AI.
I know I'm speaking lots of business
Action
jargon.
item.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Okay. Number 635, simplify proposal process. Miles opened this. There's a related PR from 14 days ago, number 668. Looks like there is some changes requested from Emily, and that's been pretty recent. And I don't see that Michael has had time over the weekend, obviously, to respond to that. But it looks like actually once Emily's comments are addressed, this one could probably land. Is that what y'all
If I remember right, I looked at it very quickly. It looks like the main thing I was wanting to get fixed got fixed, but then there was a weird thing, I think, left over possibly from referring to the bootstrap actions.
Yeah, and I think, oh, I see. So is that, it says it's outdated in my view here. So maybe that's already addressed. Let me look at the changes here. Yeah, I don't see bootstrap in here anymore. So I think this is kind of ready to go. The only question I have is that we were looking at restructuring the directories in that in that directory, but I think that could be a follow-on issue. We could merge this and then just create a quick issue to say, align directory structure and readmes to fit with the new update to the proposal process. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, Emily, if you could, I guess you're not probably able to do this, but
I just did.
Oh, you did? Great.
But
so
the remaining question that I had left is that as a sort of dog fooding exercise, should this proposal follow its own proposal?
That's a nice idea, but I don't think it should.
That one I expressed honestly as a question, and if no one thinks that, yeah, I'm happy with merging it, at least on my part.
It's a nice idea. So if there are no objections, I can merge this and then open a PR to not a PR, but a issue to align the directory structure and the readmes to be aligned with these changes.
+1
on it. Cool.
All right. Number 632 is provide implementation guidance for DCO/CLA. My gut is that this is one that we're also not going to have an update on today because Toby and Brian are both out. And I'm going to assume nobody else knows. Okay, yeah. My assumption, I think, is correct.
That's a good assumption then.
Yeah. All right, then the last regularly scheduled issue is issue 592, develop annual review process for projects.
That's, I think, effectively blocking on the whole thing we're doing with growth.
Okay. Yeah, I see this. We had some meeting notes from some of the ad hoc calls. So should we add like a blocked label on? Do we have a blocked label? We do. Should we add a blocked label on this?
Which issue is this again? Is this?
This is 592 annual review process for projects.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about the concept of epics in a sense, like overarching issues that this might fall into, that touches on like the growth plan and, you know, the other aspects of a 360 review. Correct me if I'm misremembering something there.
No, you're right. But it's also correct to say that this particular issue is blocked due to the other issue. So.
Oh, blocked by another issue? Sure, sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it could be blocked by a number of issues.
Well, so one of the reasons that we felt urgency or some amount of urgency on this was to help support growth projects that are trying to reach some goals and that kind of stuff. And so I think it makes sense that the issue on how we review those goals could really be dependent upon like what we're doing with the growth stage. If we fundamentally rethink that as a stage or that as a process, then the review process is different, I think. Possibly. Very, very, very secure in that opinion, maybe. So.
I mean, yeah. Maybe this needs to be like broken up into different areas of some sort of review process.
Let me ask it. Let me test an assumption that I have. Is this a process that's going to apply to all projects? Like every project gets reviewed? Or is this a process
that's what our, was it charter or governance doc says that we ought to be doing? And hence this issue. On the other hand, a resolution for this issue might be that we end up changing the charter or governance that says that we ought to be doing this to say something else. So who knows what we're really doing here?
Okay, well then let's ask that question. Do we think we should review every project every year?
But that then is blocked by the fact that the people that are most affected by this are the growth projects, and we should address those specifically before we address the general case, which is why this is effectively blocked at the moment.
Well, but I think it's still like worth asking, you know, like under what scenarios we may want to review at-large projects or impact projects, or, you know, I doubt we would review emeritus projects ever, but like that's one thing. You know, we want in some cases to be pretty well apprised of where, say, an at-large project is in its life cycle, because if it's possibly going to be transitioning to emeritus, we want to be ahead of that as soon as possible, and not like when the maintainer says, okay, no, I'm done. You know, I think we'd rather, I don't know, be.
Yeah, I feel like a review process for all aspects of the work that we're doing here, or maybe all is too broad, but the different stages of projects, and additionally the CPC and the foundation. But I wonder if we can kind of make this not an arduous process, but design some simple questions that we would send to projects, and how we would evaluate the work of the CPC and the foundation. And just make that an annual thing. We send it out, people respond, what's our net promoter score, and go from there. Sorry.
What's our clout? Do you even hear our clout?
Yeah.
I got my 12-year Twitter anniversary thing today, and then I was thinking about that kind of stuff. That's old school. Anyway, so maybe they are separate, and I agree, Joe, that I think this needs to be for most projects, especially those that aren't really contemplating a major change or a major need or something, should be super lightweight and easy, and like a questionnaire, like, is probably sufficient. But it should be useful, right? And not just, here's a busy work survey for you to do. So maybe we do keep this. So I would be delighted to volunteer to like tackle this as a hopefully separate, kind of decomposed part of the growth plan problem.
Yeah, we could have a question too on where the projects need more of our help from the foundation level as well.
It does sound like a good idea.
So my question as it relates to this particular issue is, number one, should this issue be essentially updated to clarify that it is related to growth projects? And then we create an issue for, develop annual review process for non-growth projects, develop annual review process for the CPC, develop annual review process for the foundation, kind of thing.
I think we've already got a couple of issues taking the growth stuff in particular forward, but we don't for the rest of it. So might be easiest to take this and modify it to refer to basically everything other than growth, all the other projects.
Yeah, but there's a lot of conversation here around growth and stuff in this issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be kind of harder to separate out. This just, it does seem. I think I agree with you, Joe. We could just make this one about specifically what a review process might be needed for growth, and that is certainly blocked, as Emily says, on what the heck we're doing. And then we can have a different issue for the broader population.
And it could even be that is just one other issue and not three, as I described it. But either way there, I'm curious what needs to happen for this issue to close. So we're looking at eliminating the growth status, the growth, project state altogether. So if we move forward on that, then is this done, and is reviewing growth actually just part of a growth plan as opposed to an annual review process?
Then perhaps here we're talking about the implementation of that. If we were to eliminate the growth stage and have growth plans of some description available, then this issue is in particular about how the review for the process or progress of those growth plans is happening.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's and I'm kind of thinking out loud here a little bit, but I don't know if that's like sort of this issue as it relates to an annual process. And I think it just becomes more like, how is a growth plan implemented and, reviewed on some sort of regular basis, is maybe a more specific issue as it relates to the work here.
Do any of our projects already have growth plans just as a part of their annual kind of rhythm of the business? Node, Electron, AMP, anyone?
I'm not aware of a project that has.
Or a status update, or
AMP kind of has sort of like a Node has the state of Node.
Lockup have something. At least
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. I thought Chris was working on something.
No, I don't have anything yet.
Oh, there's Chris. But were you working on something? Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, it's on my list. Yeah.
I know that story too well.
So it sounds to me like we're veering towards just dropping the agenda label from this issue, leaving it open, blocked, and closing it eventually, if or when we should decide to get rid of the growth stage, and at which point we update the fundamental rules defining this. Or if we end up doing something else, then this becomes a problem that we actually need to solve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like a review process for a growth plan is probably a part of the plan. Like if it's a short plan, then you don't have to worry about it. If it's a 6-month plan, maybe you check in the middle. Like I feel like that should be a part of the plan itself, is what sort of review stages there may be. But again, I'm thinking out loud.
I think I'm what you're saying makes sense to me, Joe and Emily. So, yeah. Okay. So on this one for now, we will we'll drop the agenda label. We will add a blocked on the other growth related issues and make a comment in the issues as such. Okay. Cool. Great. I'm updating those now. Let me just. Okay, cool. I believe that was the last regularly scheduled issue that was tagged with the agenda label. Any other business before we close for a private session?
Let me ask real quickly, should I create an issue for review process for all other things, or?
Yes, please, if you don't mind. I'm just typing out the comment on the other one.
And do people think that there should be an issue for non-growth projects, an issue for the CPC, and an issue for the foundation, or should they be grouped, or what are people's thoughts? Just quickly, don't mean to bike shed.
One issue for projects in general.
Okay, and then maybe one issue for the foundation and CPC, or you think they should be separate?
I'm not really sure what the issue is with those, what it is that we are then asking or thinking that we ought to be doing.
Yeah, maybe I'll make that just one issue and we can kind of hash it out there, because it could even be just one thing. How's the CPC doing? How's the foundation doing? And one sort of questionnaire or something. But I'll just leave it as one issue and we can hash it out there.
And we do have an opportunity to take, for example, the next 10 minutes and brainstorm on this, given that we're slightly on topic already.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense if we want to do that.
I'm happy to. Let me ask if there is, just real quick, any other business or questions, because it's Q&A or any other business. So any Qs to A before. Okay.
42.
Okay, let's take finish minutes and then we'll close for a private session. So I will be the timekeeper and make sure we are done with this combo by 12:48 Eastern. Brainstorm away.
Whew. I'm just creating an issue, so people feel free to share your thoughts.
So Emily, you were saying that like the question is, do we want to do a review process for the CPC, or maybe Joe was saying this, a review process for the CPC and its related groups, as well as a review process for the projects? Is that what I'm hearing?
I was just talking about projects.
Okay.
Joe's for the rest of it, but I think it is entirely appropriate. For example, if we were to have some simple questionnaire that we sent to the projects, that we ask them in turn, how do they feel about the CPC and all their foundation in general?
I would like that too. I'd like the foundation to be included.
It makes sense. Do we think that that will follow a fairly like similar pattern in terms of how we execute it? I mean, how frequently we run it, you know? Do we want to run those on the same cycle all at once, so we're just getting it done, or do we want to separate it?
I was at least thinking it. I don't think there's a particular reason to have more than one questionnaire per year that we send out that has this small bunch, maybe like half a dozen questions, most of them tick boxes or free text, asking these things.
Yeah, it's a good point, because we're going to be sending a message to all projects, essentially asking them about their status, and could also ask them, their thoughts on how they are being served by the CPC and the foundation. That makes sense, all in one.
An all-in-one would be nice. The question is, in my mind, is just like, what do we want to know, and is it similar enough, to be combinable? Because I'm thinking about what do we want to know from like an at-large project and as part of their review process? Well, I would say, just spitballing, I want to know like, basically, did your rate of contributions change this year? Like rate of development activity, did it increase, decrease, stay the same? Kind of that sense, I guess. Are you planning something big this year that you want more help with? Are you winding something down this year that you want help with?
Those are good questions. I think for me, the very first thing that came to mind is that is effectively any answer given to any question will give us an active confirmation that someone's picking up the emails we're sending their way, which would be nice.
It's a good start.
And I think sort of open-ended questions like that with maybe, as you mentioned, are you planning anything big, or are you planning on winding anything down? And then maybe an option that no, yes, and then a free text to explain more on what's happening then on both of those.
Yeah. But I think those are different questions than we might want to send out to someone, or maybe it's all part of the same questionnaire, because it's like, here are some review questions for your project, like, so that you're giving us some information about support or, whatever. And then like in the same questionnaire, here's a section for you to provide some feedback on how, the CPC programs worked for you this year, how the foundation programs worked for you this year, like that. Maybe it is all part of one. Maybe it is all part of one. It certainly would be less annoying. I don't know. Sometimes I get annoyed by the number of surveys I get. So maybe it would be less annoying to send just one survey that encapsulates two things. Like it's like, here's stuff about your project, and here's stuff about the CPC/foundation services, and that's all in like one thing.
I mean, overall, all of those questions are asking in one way or another that, hey, how you doing? And then we're getting different parts of that answer because we want to split it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
A part of that is how they are doing as a project, and a part of it is how they feel about being in the CPC, being in the foundation, and what the CPC is doing in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think one relevant question to ask here is that, does anyone think that any other approach than sending this sort of vague-ish questionnaire once a year would be an appropriate way of handling the desires that we have of keeping track of how we are doing and how projects are doing?
It's a good question. I feel like in this sort of questionnaire thing, we should definitely make clear that there are avenues to raise questions or concerns throughout the year, and here they are. Here are the touch points. But yeah, beyond that, there could be other things as well.
I think my gut is I like to talk to everybody. So obviously my favorite thing would be like, oh, let's get a cup of coffee and chat, but that's not going to happen. So since that's going to be off the table, it's probably less intrusive and more thoughtful to do this format that we're discussing now. And then if there's something that really piques interest or requires, that we say, okay, cool, we saw that you said this, you want some help, let's schedule a chat and work on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably that's probably the kindest thing.
One relevant question here is also, if people are answering a questionnaire, who gets to see the results? Is it the CPC? Is it some smaller subgroup? Or is it the CPC and all of the projects? Or what is the group of people that sees the results?
It's a good question.
So we could say that's, I don't know, it could be open to.
But then if we're really actually asking and want to actual answers to questions of, are you planning something big, and or are you thinking of winding something down? Those are not necessarily the sorts of questions that would get the same responses if it's
known
effectively
to be public.
Yeah.
Solid point.
Yeah.
Should we say that is
my guess is that what we're going to end up determining is that we need to have an explicit set of people that do get all of the results, who are then going to report on the results to the CPC, and from there they become relatively public, but filtered so that anything sensitive gets left out, but is then still known at some level within the foundation, which may then be able to assist in a way that the foundation does want to assist with those actions that might be upcoming.
Well, what I was wondering about, Emily, is like, would it be better to have some of this feedback be anonymous to get the most honest feedback or something? I mean, I don't expect that people are going to be cursing about the CPC or something, but if it were anonymous, then maybe we would get more
then I think
feedback.
We're talking about two different questionnaires, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I know, that's where I'm going to.
Well, okay, so I've got to stop us because I'm the time person, and it's 12:48, so we have reached time limit on this combo. I think that this has raised a really important element of the review process, which is the fielding mechanism anonymity of the results and who sort of gets that data. And I think that should all be noted in a proposal for how we proceed. So this is good. I'm going to have to stop us though, because we have some other stuff to chat about in a private session. Let me just do a quick review. Can I do this now? No, I can't. Rachel or Robin, I think you have to stop the stream. Thanks everyone for watching also.